Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Friday, April 9th, 2021. I'm Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. And here we are, Coach, starting up a big weekend, 9-game slate in the NBA after a big night for us in NBA last night.
Oh, absolutely, and it requires a tip of the hat to you, sir.
Oh, I thank you.
What a heck of a night! We had you out there with the broom sweeping all slates. Want to give us the method to your madness that brought a bunch of winners home for our members. It was so great to see all the post takedowns, just fantastic, and it was because of you, my man. What was the secret?
Oh gosh, I don't know how much time do we have. The method to the madness, it's very involved, but I would say Mr. Boucher came up pretty big for us. Just
Sure did.
absolutely dominating.
My God.
Zach Levine crushed it, and Isaiah Stewart was that was sort of the look ahead. I mean, that's why we dig into the injuries and
Yes.
we study the rotation so much, because when you hear that Plumlee's questionable, he's going to be evaluated for concussion. You got to take the leap and say, well, there's a real good chance he's going to be out, so I'm going to lock Stewart in early, which that is a leap because it was a late game, and so we locked him
Yeah.
in as a core play on DraftKings. We locked him in the power forward spot on FanDuel, and that was a huge key. So yeah, a lot of fun. Took down that slate really on every early, late DraftKings FanDuel, and we'll see if we can follow it up again tonight. And today
Awesome.
is kind of fun and special because it's our two brains are better than one lineup on FanDuel. We're going to build towards that at the end of the show. We invite you to play it as always, and we'll make updates on Twitter if we need to at DFS Coach Talk. So make sure to follow us there.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, it really is a testament, looking through the lines that we hit last night, of really, a big shout out to all of our listeners that listen every day, because, the theme of what we talk about through time frame, like when we first started talking about Isaiah Stewart and how much energy and, this kid needs time. And if you followed the comments through the past month, it's built up to this point where he became 100% lock play for us, the confidence level of where he was at. And again, that's all us talking through these slates. That's why we put these pods up there 7 days a week in front of the paywall. We had a gentleman that really had a monster takedown just straight listening from our podcast that isn't even a member with us. And so it's
Jerome, throw
fantastic.
it down, Jerome.
Throw it down, Jerome, man. And it was great to see. So big shout out to you. Nice win. And whether you're in the Coach Talk family or not, we do appreciate you listening every day. The only ask we'll ask on the front door here coming in, just if you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the alert button so you know when our podcast posts. And that really means a lot to us because it moves us up the algorithm there at YouTube. So I appreciate it. We got a lot of work to do, my friend. Let's get after it.
Yeah, we do. And by the way, congrats to all our members who had successful night last night. So let's do it again here. 9 games, 7 of the 18 teams involved in a back-to-back. Only one total over 230, Coach, and it is a
Yeah.
monster, Washington Golden State. So we'll work
Oh,
towards
my.
that.
Yeah.
But we've got one 7 o'clock game. It's Indiana and Orlando.
Yeah.
And we could have big news here again with Indiana. Miles Turner has already been ruled out. And
Right.
then big question marks for Sabonis and Brogdon. And then on the Orlando side, Otto Porter Jr. out, Kareem Maine out, and Gary Harris is available to get into the rotation. So
Yeah.
it was a mixed last game, and now with him, it'll be even messier, but potentially some value on the Indiana side.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, for me, I think Goga Batazi's a really strong player. I like him. He can shoot the three. He'll get rebounds, block some shots. It at times reminds me like a little bit of a mixture of like Ennis Cantor because he can hit the glass and he's got a nose for the ball, and maybe uh, just a very poor man's Vuk because he can stand out there and knock down threes as well. But he just doesn't get a whole lot of minutes. Without Sabonis, if he doesn't play, and then without Turner, I think Goga gets a nice chunk of minutes. I know Sampson will also grab a few, but I think Goga's got the upside at that price and is somebody we definitely have to look at. And then, based on the other news with Brogdon too, is TJ McConnell, who bounced back very well, remains in play. And obviously, when all that usage goes away from Indiana, it's Karis LeVert time to me. So, I really, really like Karis LeVert. I'm interested also in possibly a little McConnell and Bataze too, once we get confirmation on the news. So right out of the gate, I do like this Pacers unit. But on the other side with Orlando, a little bit of concern here because they've obviously mailed it in. They're playing a lot of young guys. They're playing a really interesting rotation with Cole Anthony back in the mix now. It just creates that issue. Gary Harris, what role is he going to play? You've just got a lot of moving parts where I think they're just basically treating these last 19 games as almost like a summer league, see what we got kind of thing, which makes me very wary of playing any Magic players really at all. I just don't have confidence. I was starting to enjoy watching Okiki play, but now he's hit and miss with all the rest of the guys. So I doubt you'll see me jumping much Orlando, for quite a while here, unless they decide they're going to settle in and try to develop some chemistry with the group. But they've hung in there in games. And Indiana hasn't been blowing anybody out. They have slipped to 4 games under 500, so they're really scrambling. So I expect it to be close enough that we should get quality minutes from those Pacers guys. And I'm going to come out of here probably with a couple of Pacers.
Yeah, I could too. I'm not quite as excited about them as that last matchup against Minnesota with the ultra fast pace. It ended up being ultra high scoring, 141, 137. Orlando slower, of course, at 17th, but they still have
Right.
that bad defense. So if Sabonis and Brogdon are out, then it is a real important thing that we analyze. Last time I did stack TJ McConnell and LeVert and Goga, and that was a nice way to balance it because LeVert didn't do quite as much as we'd hoped, but TJ McConnell absolutely smashed. And he's a lot cheaper than LeVert, so he'll be high on my radar tonight. And I'm with you on Goga. I like him a lot here as a value center if he's going to start. We like that matchup against Wendell Carter Jr. So
Yes.
probably get some Goga out there tonight for sure, and then maybe one of those guards as well.
And I'm not sure if they've already waived Birch or not. I know they said they were. So
I
they're
think
going
it's
to be
official.
yeah, because they'll be a little thinner in the
Yeah.
inside there too, which helps Goga also.
Yeah, it could be some Obama as the primary big off
Did
the
you say
bench.
yo mama?
Yeah, and he is a more of a thorn in the side potentially of Goga with that length, I think, than Wendell Carter Jr. But
Doesn't scare me because he can't get out there and defend the threes
yeah,
from Goga.
yeah.
I think if he pulls them out, then that's going to open the game up. So I feel pretty good about it.
All right, me too. Game 2, we go to 7:30. It's Minnesota in Boston, 227.5 total. Boston favored by 8.5. Island game for both teams. On the Minnesota side, we have Jalen Noel doubtful and Okogie probable. On the Boston side, Evan Fournier still out, of course, and Kemba should be back out there after a day of rest. Now, this is one of the better totals on the board, one of the better game environments because Minnesota's involved, and they've got that fast pace and terrible defense.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at a couple of Boston guys, maybe. You want to get exposure against Minnesota. A little bit tougher with Kemba out there. Jaylen Brown, is probably the guy that jumps out at me the most. He's a little bit cheaper than Tatum, so you could look there. With the bigs, keep in mind that Tristan Thompson's back now. He played 22 minutes in the last game. Robert Williams only played 25.
Yeah, that was surprising.
Yep. So that takes the luster off of Robert Williams a little bit for me. On the Minnesota side, Rubio and Cat were awesome against Indiana. Cat really expensive here, so I don't think I'll go there. But Rubio, talk to me about Rubio, coach, because he gave one of those really solid performances last game, 17, 5, and 7. We know he's had some duds, but he's really good price tag. He gets Kemba Walker defense. So I'm thinking about him as one of the potential value plays today. And then I'll
Well,
mention
what
Jaden.
about D'Angelo Russell though?
Well, he's only getting 24 minutes.
Yeah, but that's 24 minutes.
Yeah,
That's my concern.
Rubio got 30, so they
He
played
played
together some.
alongside of him.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they say that D'Angelo is now going to get 30 minutes and get bumped up, then that's important. But I haven't heard that yet, so that's the question mark there that you can address. And
Sure.
also Jaden McDaniels, he
Yeah.
played 37 minutes. Wancho's minutes went down again last time, so that's been fluctuating. He's a guy that I'm somewhat interested in as well.
Yeah, it's funny. This game really bugs me because it seems like a game that you need exposure to. And when I first looked at it, I thought, okay, what angles do I want to play here? And everything I looked at ended up, saying with me saying, I don't know if I want to pull the trigger there. And I alluded to the one with, with D'Angelo. I mean, he looked really good in stretches for that half a game that he played. I can't imagine he's going to back up in minutes. I'm thinking 24 to maybe even all the way up to 28 would be very reasonable. They will probably play Rubio next to him a little bit. And, when Edwards is out of the game, Edwards looked really good also. Then you have the big minutes from McDaniels, but he's got to go up against like Tatum defense, which isn't going to be a piece of cake. And Cat's just so high priced, on a big slate like this that it really handcuffs you. So as much as I like some of these Minnesota guys, I don't know if I feel confident enough with some of the split minutes and some of the defense on the Boston side. Not that they've been world beaters on defense, but Tatum, and Smart, specifically those two, are, all NBA type of defenders. So I'm a little worried about the Minnesota side. Plus, Boston plays a lot slower than they do.
Yep.
So I may not have Minnesota exposure for the first time in maybe a week. And then on the other side, we're back in that conundrum here with Boston. You have Walker, Smart, Brown, and Tatum all in there and all playing full minutes. It gets sliced and diced, and you can't really count on anybody going nuts. I mean, you got to expect Brown and Tatum to lead the way, but losing that, 4 points in usage, which they both do, if you look at when Walker, Smart, Brown, Tatum, and Williams are on the floor, Williams does demand the ball some. He's an offensive player. He's not just a run up and down like Tice was or some of their other bigs like Tristan Thompson, and they're completely out of the offense. They just rebound and create things for themselves. They're just like an extra player out there. But with Robert Williams, he's in the offense. He'll post, he'll pop, he'll pick and roll. So he's part of that. Tatum and Brown, we know, dominate play there. But Marcus Smart, now that he's got his legs about him, he's getting a lot more shots up and a lot more involved. And even though Kemba hasn't been Kemba this year, when he's in there, he scores big in spurts and he'll take quite a few shots. So I go with that lengthy explanation because you would think Boston smash spot, let's stack them. It's against Minnesota. Here are my two concerns on the Boston side, Andrew. And if you can convince me different, I'd be happy to change my mind. I just don't think Minnesota can hang with them. I think Minnesota is just in all of this transitional time of all these things going on with the team. I'm not real comfortable that they can hang in there. And secondly, I just think that Boston has to share the ball so much right now that it hurts trying to zone in on one of these guys that are all priced pretty high, in my opinion. You don't get a real cheap option here. And now that Williams didn't get full run the last game, that's sort of like the last domino to fall. So I mean, if I pass this game, is this going to cost me? Is the question.
It could if Minnesota keeps it close, but I agree that's a real concern, and the price tags for Boston are not so cheap that you get really excited. So it is a bit of a risk.
It is. It's a tough one, though.
All right, game three. This one is a bit of a risk for being ultra low scoring. It's
Yes.
Memphis in New York, total of 214.5. Memphis favored by 1.5. Interesting, they put this one on NBA TV. It's like
Yeah.
they want to see Ja in the Big Apple, but not looking for a lot of scoring here with defenses of 7th and 4th. New York's 27th ranked pace. We do have Memphis with the 6th fastest pace, but below average offenses. In terms of the news, we have Brandon Clark doubtful, and guys who have already been ruled out are Winslow and Melton, and
Right.
everybody ready to go on the New York side. So, any interest in this one?
This game's probably not going to get a ton of attention. It might get a little boost because it's on national TV with that NBA TV game, but certainly not one to stack. I mean, the danger of a 95, 94 game is always looming in a matchup like this. But you have two teams that really need it. A couple games over and under 500 for these two teams, and they're trying to position themselves for the playoff spot. So you've still got a gluttony of guards with the Knicks trying to rotate six guards basically. So that, I don't want any part of that again. I mean, it's if you pick the right guy, it can be helpful, but it's just a little bit too risky for me as a cash player. RJ Barrett's going to get Dylan Brooks' defense, which is a concern for me. And, Julius Randle's a terrific play. I think he's just so expensive that when I mentioned it last time. I mean, I love playing the guy, but he has to be almost perfect because the game is slower, less possessions, less attempts. So if he has just a little bit of an off night, he can't quite make up the points that he needs to get himself to even 7x. So you know I've skinned by with him at 5x just because he's so good, but it becomes almost like a ceiling with him, just because of the lack of opportunities because of the slower pace and sound defense. So, you know, Kyle Anderson's an interesting guy. If you look at slow-mo's across the board stats, he is a consistent stinking guy, man. And he gets a little minutes bump with Clark out. And, he's a dangerous guy because he's going to throw some steals, a couple, maybe a block. He's going to get some assists. He just fills the different categories well. Nobody ever really pays attention to him, and he makes value like night after night. So if you have to go low and go cheap, I don't think he's a bad play. I really don't. Again, it's not the ideal spot against super slow Knicks, but there's a possibility there. Ja Morant, took a little bit of heat a couple of games ago. There was all this posting on social media. He's the highest pick ever, being the second pick overall to attempt less than 12 shots in consecutive games. All this baloney, just trying to hate on Ja and all of that. And the last game, he stepped up and really had a nice game. His three ball looked a lot better. And, I think if he gets up for this game, in New York, and it is a TV game, and his price is really good, I think Ja's an option. I'm going to consider him, especially on the sites where you can have more than one point guard. So he's in play a little bit for me. After that, though, I don't want to press it. Probably a one-off. But is there anybody I'm missing here on your screen, Andrew?
No, I don't think so. I don't really like this game. Ja, since you mentioned him most recently, after you pointed out his poor shooting percentage from 3 point land this year,
Yeah,
I took a little closer look and I actually noticed that his shooting form to me it looks worse than when he was in college. He's using more of a two-handed shot actually, and
yeah,
I remember him in college having more of a just one hand, the left hand wasn't getting in the way, and his stroke looked really good to me. So it looks to me like he's changed it a little bit, and it has not been a good decision. So something to keep an eye on. That you contrast that though with that talk in the media, and certainly woke him up.
Yeah.
So that he certainly is motivated, but with this slow pace and great defense, he'd be a borderline consideration for me. The guy that I do like the most would be Kyle Anderson, and in the last 3 games that Brandon Clark has been out, he's had over 40 fantasy points in all 3 of them.
It's
He
amazing.
he gets the extra minutes, the extra usage, and I'm a little disappointed. I think in those 3 games I've only played him once, and
I know,
so
me too.
yeah,
Nobody plays him. He's always low owned.
and it's partly because he's really inconsistent. His output is very volatile, but it has been consistent with Clark out. So that's important news. He is playable for me, especially on DraftKings. He's only 5,900 if Clark
Yeah.
sits, but it's not a good game environment. So
No,
wouldn't be surprised if this ends the streak of 40 fantasy point nights for Mr. Anderson.
we will see.
All right, game 4, Coach. We move to 8 o'clock. It's Chicago in Atlanta. 227 total, one of the higher totals on the board here.
Yeah.
Atlanta favored by 2, and it is a back-to-back for Chicago, of course. Nice win last night over Toronto.
Yeah.
Levine absolutely smashed 22, what was it, 22, 6, and 13.
Yeah, he was great.
Played 38 minutes, which is big because he'd been dinged up a little bit with the ankle.
Yeah.
On the Atlanta side, we do have some injury news here. Capella is questionable and Gallinari questionable. John Collins still out. So big changes in that front court. Starting with Chicago here, I do like Levine again here. He's still in the 7K range on both sites. And look at what Grayson Allen just did against Atlanta. Grayson Allen scored 30 points against them.
He has 30 points combined all year, doesn't he?
I know. So it seems that Bogdanovich and Herter are focused a little bit more on offense, shall we say, than shutting guys down defensively. So I like Levine here to make a lineup potentially. Your boy Patrick Williams was pretty solid last night.
He's tough.
He's still cheap.
He's tough. Yeah.
Vucevic could have a little better matchup if Capella sits, but he's pretty expensive, so I don't know if I'll get there. Tice played 27 minutes, played really well last game. He's 3,700 on DraftKings. That's an option. On the Atlanta side, wouldn't mind getting somebody against this fast-paced Chicago team that's below average defensively. Trae Young's had a couple good games lately. He's pretty cheap on FanDuel, but overall, not really thrilled about those 3 guys like we've been talking about, Trae and Bogdan Herter. But I would look at some value here if Capella and Gallinari are out. You could look at Okongwu. He was pretty impressive in that last spot start, double-double, 32 minutes. Yep. So he's an option. I think I like Goga a little bit better if they both start, but Okongwu's in the mix, and that's probably it. So I'm looking at maybe Levine, maybe Okongwu if he starts.
Yeah, I like this game a lot. I mean, these are 2 teams I think that are on the rise. I've said it a few times on the pod here, but maybe we have people listening for the first time. But I think Chicago did the best job of any team at the trade deadline. I love the team they put together. Their depth is just crazy good. There's several guys I like here that I'm looking at. Satoransky has not let me down yet. That dude just comes out and goes 7X and then sits down. I mean, he just gets it done. And he's playing, even though Kobe's coming in off the bench and playing minutes and hitting shots, he's still getting a good run in there. So he's always in play for me at his price. I'm not going to go Levine on because I am concerned about the ankle and the monster minutes last night. So if he misses 3-4 minutes at that price, it just scares me a little bit. But he is awesome. Patrick Williams remains dirt cheap. Again, just another 8X night last night, 31 fantasy points, 32 fantasy points at a cheap price. Now, I'm not going to go with him tonight because I'm going to look more at the bigs, but I'm expecting Capella not to play. So if he plays, it changes everything in this game for me. But for the purposes of the pod here, I'm going to assume he's out. And so I love Thaddeus Young. I mean, to me, he is the most underrated player in the NBA for like the last 10 years. Nobody ever talks about Thad Young. He's been on like 5 different teams. Nobody values him. But think about it. He was great in Philly. Every stop along the way, all he does is rebound, score some buckets, get some assists, play really solid defense. I think he's so undervalued, by the DFS world too. His price is really good. And again, here's a guy, look at his past, performances now that he's starting. He flat out beat out Markkanen. Markkanen comes off the bench now. And it's Young's job, and he's producing every night. And Atlanta's front court, with Solomon Hill and Okongwu, and then a couple other young guys off the bench, are very subject to getting smoked here. So I am more so about Thad Young, and also Vuk is in play for me. I know his price is high, but it's not as high as it was. But I just think he's in a groove. He looks great. He's been with the team long enough that he's getting in the flow of the offense. Young's close to a lock washer for me. Vuk's getting a lot of consideration. And, may even look at a Sato here. Markkanen's coming off the bench playing well, but I don't think for his price he's getting quite enough minutes. And then on the Atlanta side, I sort of like your man Bogey here. I have to put Bogey up there just for Godfather of Gains to listen to the podcast. Mm-hmm. He'd cancel the podcast if we didn't mention Bogey.
That's true.
So, he's just playing so well and with so much confidence right now. And I know Trey's the man, but I guarantee you Sato's going to be strapped to him pretty tight, and they're going to really focus on trying to get the ball out of his hands. And I'm still not a herder guy, so I think Bogdanovich picks up a lot of those shots, and Bogey gets some assists too. Don't underestimate his ability to pass the ball, also. So I'm high on him today, and then I'm with you. I think if Capella's out and a Kongu starts, I was a little hesitant the last time because I didn't know how he would handle that pressure, but he is a very talented young man. He was picked very high in, I think, 4th or 5th overall in the draft, and tons of expectations. He is a defensive specialist, but he's explosive at the rim. Vuk is not a good defender, so I expect he's going to get some putbacks, a couple of takes, dunks. I think he's going to get some blocks, and he'll get a decent amount of rebounds, and he can also grab a few steals. So when you start putting those statistics together, if he does get that 25 to 30-minute run, which is very possible if Capella sits, I think he's your candidate to go, 8, 9, 10x without even having a huge blow-up game. Both of these teams play fast enough. Both of these teams at times struggle defensively, both much improved, but I just think it opens up for a Kongwu, and I have no problem doing the same thing I did last time when these two guys played, and it paid off. I played them both on DraftKings, dirt cheap, and Yahoo, and you have to make a decision, I believe, on FanDuel because they're both listed at center. Is that correct?
Who's that?
Can you?
Vuk and Okongwu?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to make a decision there, but I just think they're both extremely playable. Now, if Capella plays, that again out the window, but I'm going to play both of those cheap centers where I can play them and then make the decision between the two. But I think the kid, I don't expect him to go 25 points and 20 rebounds, but when you start, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and then the other, stuff that comes in there, I think I'm very confident he'll make value. So this is a key game for me, Andrew. Good 3-4 guys could easily come out of this game wearing the Coach Talk jersey.
Yeah, I think it could work. I will say with the bigs for Chicago, I do prefer Vucevic here if I'm going to play one of them. I'm concerned about Thaddeus Young, just the minutes a little bit with Tice. he gets a few less minutes with Tice out there. Last game he played 24. And so he's more of a cash game guy for me. I mean, he is ultra solid. I love what you say
Yeah.
about him in general as a player. But mid 6K range, I don't like him for GPPs. He'd be cash only for me.
Did you see the lineup they played last night? They had they played Vukovic, Tice, and Markkanen were all in there at the same time.
Yeah.
Talk about big.
Yeah. Well, Markkanen, he's one of those, he can be a 3.
Hey, he's 7 feet.
Yeah.
He's 7 feet
But
tall.
he's got that skill to be more of a wing player.
No doubt.
All right. 8 o'clock game here. The other one is Philly in New Orleans. Front end of a back-to-back for Philly. Another decent total here because New Orleans is involved. 228.5. Philly favored by 6. And everybody ready to go for Philly, but with New Orleans, big question marks for guys named Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and also Kyra Lewis Jr. So that's what we have there for injury news. And, interesting contrast here. Philly number 2 defensively, but New Orleans 28th. And both good pace and good offense. So is this a close game somehow? Or does everything just depend on the New Orleans news with Lonzo and Ingram?
I think it depends on the news.
Yep. So why don't you get us going on this one? If it's hard to tell because Ingram hasn't played in a while. Ball just played, but now he's questionable. So we really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I won't waste a ton of time here because this is, and again, we always feel bad because, for some folks, this is the only time they get to hear us discuss games, but we have to have that news. If Lonzo and Ingram sit out, Philly's such a strong team, the James Johnsons and backups for these squads, remember they lost Hart, they lost so they're already shorthanded. They traded Ray Redick and Melly, so they're playing against it a bit here. And if those guys are out, I think Philly just obliterates them, and that just destroys this game for DFS purposes. And it also destroys the Philly side because you're not going to get full run from their main guys if this is a smackdown. So, I don't think those guys both play. If they do, then you can consider the game. You can look at a few plays here, but the pricing's not good. I mean, it's a massive slowdown game for the Pelicans against a really good defensive team that's going to, eat the clock with Joel and such. And the price on Zion, Embiid, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, if he plays Ingram, Ball, those are all big price tickets. And I just don't like the game script, the potential for this getting out of hand, and don't even really want to go with the secondary guys because, Philly's deep enough where your high score for Philly, if this game gets a little wonky, it could be like a Shake Milton off the bench. He can tear it up. He's a really good player. These are the type of games where, you're going to get, a couple of the other backups, that can come in and, take a lot of points possibly away from some of the players that are out there. So until we get more of the news, I'm going to fade it. If we do get, confirmation on that prior to, then I may go with a one-off here.
For me, I'm also going to fade the stars for the reasons you mentioned. I am interested in a couple value plays here, though, regardless of whether the stars play. Because on the Philly side, it's Seth Curry and Danny Green. And the reason is New Orleans is terrible against that three-pointer. We've talked about it a lot.
That's right. We've hit on that a lot.
They are dead last in the league. They allow 39% shooting on three-pointers, which is awful.
You don't think Ben Simmons will tear him up, do you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a three-point shooting opportunity, so not going to go with Ben Simmons. Although in a wide open game, I mean, this could be one where
he's sticking one in there just to smash us. Right. That's for sure.
So Seth Curry is in play for me. He's pretty cheap. Danny Green, borderline also. And then on the New Orleans side, if Lonzo's out as you said, Na and Hart are already out. And Kyra Lewis Jr., if he's out too, then Isaiah Thomas is in play for me.
Isn't that crazy? Isaiah Thomas
Yeah.
back on the clipboard, maybe. He may
Yeah,
make the clipboard.
he might. I mean, he is more expensive on DraftKings, but 3,900 on FanDuel, and he might start.
If those guys are all out, he may play 30 minutes.
He might. The only other thing I think they might do is let Bledsoe play the point, and then they start somebody like Owundu. But, I mean, we're getting
That's when you're looking at a 25-point blowout, though.
Right. I mean, we're getting really thin here. And, again, it's a 10-day contract for Isaiah Thomas. So I think he does get big minutes, and he's in play for me. It's a tough scenario, though, if with the length and defense of guys like Simmons and everybody on Philly is strong. But, he's in play for me as probably the leading candidate for a one-off on the New Orleans side.
No Zion for you today?
I think Tobias can handle him. I mean, again, if all those guys are out, Zion's going to get a ton of shots. But Tobias Harris is a big, strong, athletic guy. It's almost
he
like
really is.
You just forget that, but he's tough. So, yeah, Zion, he could do it just because of the volume. But that's a little bit risky because I think Tobias can do a decent job against him.
Yeah, if they keep it close, he could have a nice game. But you're right, Tobias is underrated all the way around.
And then you've got Embiid behind him at the rim, so not an easy night for Zion. All right, we have 2 9:00 games. Let's start with Charlotte in Milwaukee, 223 total. Milwaukee favored by 8 after a 15-point loss to your Mavericks last night. Giannis was sitting out, so I'm going to mark him questionable again tonight. PJ Tucker also questionable. No new injury news for Charlotte. We know that they're shorthanded without Hayward. So we've got Miles Bridges starting. You could look at one of these Charlotte guys here. I mean, it's a great pace game. They're 10th. Milwaukee's 5th. Milwaukee is great defensively. But just a tighter rotation without Hayward. So Bridges is in play. Graham is borderline in play. His price has gone up a little bit. His minutes down a little bit. Rozier last game 40 minutes. Graham only 27. Brad Wanamaker of all people got 23 minutes off the bench. Crazy. So that takes away a little bit from Graham for me. But Rozier on FanDuel is somebody to consider at 7,300. Jalen McDaniels here. How about the spot start for him last game?
That's nuts. They're just trying to get in my head because I can't tell the McDaniels apart, and I screw them up all the time.
I know. It's sort of like the Morris twins. It's tough. So 32 minutes for him, over 20 points, hit some 3-pointers. 3,300 on DraftKings is a great price for him here.
Where did he come from? He wasn't in the mix at all.
He's had a lot of games, 7, 8, 9 minutes.
Yeah.
So, they moved PJ to center to start, like you've talked about quite a bit. And
they've done it basically once, 8 minutes into games. Why not just do it? I mean, it's about time.
Bismack Biyombo didn't even play in the last game.
No.
So that's why Jalen got all those minutes. So I like him tonight. On the Milwaukee side, great opportunity again here if Giannis is out, but it's a back-to-back. It's Milwaukee, so I'm not.
What are you thinking with Giannis tonight?
I think he sits.
Think he sits again?
I mean, it's a knee issue. They're 32 and 19. I just don't. Yeah. I don't think you push it.
Why push it against a banged-up Charlotte team?
Yeah, so we'll see. But man, Middleton. He was the one guy last night who he shot 6.
Oh my God!
6 for 27.
6 for 27, dude.
Oh my gosh!
I watched all 27 of those bricks go up there. I should say 21 bricks. That was tough to watch.
Just give me 4 or 5 makes, Chris, and it would have been an incredible night for our lineups.
He could not get the ball to go in, but I do give him credit for continuing to shoot.
Yeah. So, he's in play again if Giannis is out. Portis definitely in play. He's still in the 5K range.
He was tough, man. That was my best play last night. He was the first guy in. I knew with the Mavs' poor interior defense, he's a mean dude. He's tough.
He is tough.
I like him.
Yeah.
I wish he played for my team.
Yeah, so I could get 1 or 2 guys here. Portis, much better price than Drew or Middleton. And then Jalen on the other side is in play for me.
Yeah, this game's tough. I mean, I'm with you. I think Giannis sits again. I mean, it's obviously, a little more serious, if he sat multiple games here. I think they can beat Charlotte at home without him. If they
Yep.
can't, then they're in trouble because, Charlotte's just a shell of themselves. I mean, no LaMelo, no
Hayward.
Hayward, yeah, and just going through this shift in their lineup. A couple of guys here that I'll consider. If Giannis does sit, Miles Bridges' price has been good. His minutes are up. He's playing better. He's playing with some confidence. I think he's a decent play at a cheap price. I don't know if I trust McDaniels quite yet after the one performance. I'm a little nervous about that. Plus Middleton's a good defender. That scares me. I'm a huge Rozier guy. Play him as much as anybody. But I can't imagine he's not going to get Drew Holiday defense, which definitely gives me a little concern. So really on the Charlotte side, only Rozier if I have the extra salary. I think that I'm with you on the Graham thing, and the minutes are a little bit disturbing, but Miles may be in play. There are a few guys I like on the Milwaukee side. I think that this could be a Drew Holiday game. He didn't have as big of a game yesterday against the Mavs, but I think he's the guy, that steps up even more so if Giannis is out than even Middleton. I mean, Middleton's going to keep shooting his way out of the slump. I'm sure he'll have a better game, but it's hard to spend the money and feel super confident in a guy that's just bricked up, 21 shots and couldn't find the bucket. Now, I think he'll do well, and I think he could make value, but is he a smash candidate? That's the concern that I have. So I prefer to lean towards Drew Holiday here. I think he's the better play. And I also like Portis again. I know he took advantage of a weak interior for Dallas, but Charlotte has a weak interior, I think. They're small ball, and Portis is an animal out there, and if he gets his good run and good minutes, I think he takes advantage of that, and they're going to need him in this game. So really, looking at Holiday, a slight chance at Middleton, Portis, and then probably a little bit of Bridges and even a little Rozier. So this is probably the second game on the board for me that I like, other than everybody's game where they're going to stack everybody in the world with Washington, Golden State. But, I think to diversify a little bit, this is one of the other two games other than the big one that I will have exposure to. And hopefully it stays close. I mean, Milwaukee on a back-to-back after getting it handed to them, you wouldn't think they'd step right in and just blow the doors off of Charlotte without Giannis. So that's what I'm counting on in that situation.
All right, let's move to the other 9 o'clock game. It's San Antonio in Denver. This is a rematch from Wednesday. Denver won that one 106-96. We have Trey Lyles still out. Lonnie Walker and Gorgie Jang questionable. And then on the Denver side, we have Jamal Murray questionable after sitting out the last one. And this is a 220 total. Denver favored by 8.5. We've got the below average pace, middle of the road defenses, and below average offense from San Antonio. Really, the only thing you really like in this game is Denver's good offense.
Right.
So, can be a dud with teams like this facing off each other. Do you like anyone here?
No, I think it's pretty much what you said, sort of a dud game. It just doesn't have a lot of luster to it. Who ended up coming out? I know we had the big discussion of Campazzo or Morris.
It was almost exactly the same.
Oh, geez. All that discussion, and then they do the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, I don't like that those two guys have the potential to do exactly the same, even if Murray doesn't play. So that eliminates them immediately for me. How is this game script going to come down? I mean, that's the questionable thing. I mean, Denver's offense is good. The Joker's always a potential play. Pirtle's a pretty decent matchup for him. He can move fairly well, and he's, decent defender. So it's not like one of those perfect scripts for the Joker. And he hasn't exactly been going 8x with that big salary lately very often either. There's a few guys like he and Luka specifically that, people just plug and play and expect them to get 80 fantasy points. When they, throw a 40 on the board, they're ready to, throw them out of the league. But I just don't see this as being a perfect game for matchup game for the Joker. So I'm not going there. It's tough with Gordon there. He's really good. He's helped their team, but man, has it taken a jolt out of the rest of these guys. It makes it inconsistent whether you want to play, roster up a Barton, which we did quite a bit before Gordon got there. Porter is always a great option, but it just seems like they're sharing the ball. They're playing very unselfish basketball, which is great. But, I just don't see a jump out standouts. And, he loves to use his bench. And there's a lot of rotation of those guys getting in there now. And it just uneasy against the Spurs. Spurs, as we know, we always complain about how difficult it is to predict. Can anybody blow out a game? Gordon's a nice defender, so he's going to bother DeRozan. Barton can bother DeRozan a little bit at times. So I don't want to spend up for him. Don't really trust the other guys that much. So, I very well could just easily pass this game, as I do a lot of Spurs games, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm with you. Not much interest in this one at all. If Jamal Murray sits, I will look at Campazzo, Morris, PJ Dozier. They're all in the 3K range on both sites, so I could see any of them hitting value. So it could be a one-off here for me, but don't like the game, and I want to turn my attention to the next one because it is the biggest game on the slate. Washington in Golden State, 230.
192 to 188.
That would work. Yeah, 238 total. Golden State favored by 4.5. This is a matchup of the teams that are the two fastest in the NBA. Washington number 1 in pace. Golden State number 2. We've got the terrible defense of Washington. So pretty good game environment here. We have Beal probable. He did play 30 minutes in the last game.
Yeah.
And then we have Pascal out for Golden State, and Gary Payton II is available to make his debut.
Wow.
So I do like this game. I don't know if it'll be a crazy big stack for me. I like the combo of Steph and Draymond here for Golden State. I love the correlation between the two, and I feel pretty confident that they'll do quite well against this bad Washington defense. With the fast pace, they're going to get plenty of possessions. Oubre and Wiggins are also playable for me. Wiseman was great in the last game against Milwaukee, but he'd probably be the last starter I would go to. Just don't really trust him yet. He does have the potential, though, at 4,800 to pay off value. And then with Washington, I think this is where I'm just not ready to make this a huge game stack on the main slate because I'm not quite ready to go here with Westbrook or Beal. Beal though is interesting here as a $8,300 shooting guard on FanDuel.
Pretty inexpensive for Beal.
Yeah, it's sort of like the Levine situation where he's been dinged up, his price goes down a little bit. Do you pounce on it, or is he just not quite ready to pay off value next to Westbrook? I'd probably be more likely to play Beal here in a GPP. Or somebody like Rui. He got 30 minutes, and so he's back in the mix. Decent price for him. Davis Bertans hit value again.
Did.
And he's still cheap. That's a risky one though because he does really depend on the 3-point shot. If he's off, then it's going to be a dud. So I'm more interested on the Golden State side here.
Yeah, if you've noticed, I have not really spent up like a crazy man anywhere. I've been saving my money. The only potential pay up guy I've been talking about is Vuk. Other than that, it's been, keep my cash in my pocket. And that's because this is the game, I think you can overthink things at times, at least I do, and you can try to outsmart, the rest of the industry. And that works. But there are times when something, it's like when you have somebody has a fish and they smack you across the face with it, and that fish just smacks you in the face. So that's how I feel about this slate. I know that doesn't make any sense, but it's like let's look at DFS. Who do we want to play? Here's Washington, Golden State. Smack. There's this fish across the face.
Right.
So I feel like I've got to stick with it here and not try to overthink it. So for me, it's real simple. You play Steph Curry, and you either play Westbrook or Beal. And I think that you really feel good about having those two studs in your belt, going into those late games. Two guys that of those three could lead the slate in scoring. It's very possible. And I just think they're pretty safe because I'm not feeling like this is a blowout in either direction. Both of these teams have gotten blown out recently, but haven't done the blowing out very much. So, I think with the talent and the speed of this game, it's just hard to pass up. And then, even after that, I may go another step further. The two guys that I like as the second fiddles are, as you mentioned, Rui Hachimura, who even after sitting out a game with a slight injury, came back and played 30 minutes. I think he's in there 35, 38 minutes. They've just committed to playing that dude at the 4 and the 5, and he's going to play the majority of every game, and he'll often lead them in minutes. And with this up-tempo game, he's going to have so many more chances to rebound, all kinds of stuff. So I think he's a really good play. The guy I like on the Golden State side is the second guy, is Oubre, because he's a little expensive, I know, but when there's up-tempo games, if you look at his games that he's really played well, it's generally when they're playing an up-tempo team, because he likes to get out and run and finish, fly in with those left-handed dunks. He's a good offensive rebound, tip dunk kind of guy that, if the game's open and not clogged up in the middle, he has a tendency to do much better. It's when he's stuck out in the corner shooting threes that he usually bombs. So this game script to me plays right into his hands. He'll have Denny Advia guarding him early on, and there's no way he can stay with him. So this is my game, Andrew. It's, if it was to start right now, I go Curry, and I'm not going to say whether it's Westbrook or Beal because I don't know yet. I need to think about that some more. If I had to make the decision this second, it would probably be Beal just because of the big savings. And then I'm ready to put Oubre and Hachimura in there too. So, I wouldn't be surprised if you see 4 from this game and 2 from those other 2 games that I like, and it somehow becomes a 3-game slate out of 9, which is weird, but that's what I like.
Okay. Well, we got one game left before we build that 2 brains are better than one lineup. It's Houston against the Clippers, the other 10 o'clock
Odd game here, huh?
Yeah, 222 total. Clippers favored by 12, coming off that solid win last night against Phoenix. On the Houston side, we have John Wall out, and it's the front end of a back-to-back. And on the Clippers side, I'm going to mark Beverly questionable since it's a back-to-back. Reggie Jackson's a little bit of a question mark because he left with an eye injury yesterday.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to wait and see on does Paul George or Kawhi sit since it's a back-to-back. But
somebody's going to sit.
All we know right now, Coach, is that John Wall is out. So
right.
Do you look at a guy like Porter Jr. or Wood here?
I mean, you certainly could. I hate the game script here and not knowing what's going on. There's no way that this, probable starting lineup for the Clippers plays tonight. I guarantee it. I mean, it's just no way. Somebody's going to sit, whether it be Kawhi or whomever. It's against a horrible Houston team. They're not going to stress out these guys that, I think about 3 of the Clippers sit. So when it comes time, if you want to put in somebody from this game and save a spot that you can rotate in or out of when that late news comes, I completely respect that. But, to game script this and determine how you want to roll it doesn't make any sense because we don't know who's going to play. We do, like you said, know that Porter and Wood are going to be in there, but talk about propensity for blowout. Yes, I know people are going to say it's a trap game for the Clippers coming off the good win. If they're sitting guys, Houston did beat Dallas. I get all that stuff, but I do not see Houston going there against the Clippers and be able to hang with them without John Wall in this game. So Porter's okay of a play, but I don't like his price. Wood's price is extremely expensive, and my money was just used in that last game. So I really don't like this scenario here. I want to see who's sitting because there could be a super duper value Clipper here that opens up. My man Marcus Morris, we know what he does when those guys sit, and he's pretty guaranteed with his minutes. And then, if we do have a bunch of the guards sit, let's say, if Beverly sits and who got poked in the eye? Who was it?
Reggie Jackson.
Reggie Jackson, if he sits, then all of a sudden Terrence Mann's back in the picture. So we could get a guy or two from this game that is too good of a value to pass up. But all in all, I think the Clippers smack them around, don't like the feel of this game, and have no idea who's going to sit. So not really buying in.
I'm a little more optimistic that Houston keeps it close.
Okay.
Not extremely optimistic, but if Paul George or Kawhi sits, then it's a much better matchup for Houston.
True.
So Porter is in consideration for me. I like Wood's price on FanDuel a little bit because he's got Zubats, that matchup. I think he can do some work there.
Yeah.
Maybe a value play with Houston, especially in the after-hours slate with a guy like Sterling Brown or KJ Martin.
Yeah, it makes the after-hours slate fun, that's for sure.
It does. And then with the Clippers, Rondo was really great last night in 19 minutes.
Yeah.
Put up huge numbers.
He might be their point guard going into the playoffs, man.
And he could be playable here if Beverly or Reggie Jackson is out because he was really, really cheap on both sites.
Maybe he's the guy rather than Mann. Although I can't stand Rondo without his headband. It's like, who is that? He looks so different.
Yeah. Speaking of headbands, Demarcus Cousins didn't play last night, but he's playing against his former team here.
That's right.
Again, just want to mention it. He's pretty expensive, especially on DraftKings, but $4,100 on FanDuel. He's probably not going to be my favorite value play. Just want to mention here, again, maybe an after-hours slate candidate. We'll see how the news plays out.
I'm rooting for him, man. I hope he does well.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's build this two brains lineup. Coach, I'll let you get us started. As always, again, follow us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk for any changes. You can follow the coach at JOESARVADI. You can find me at Language Olympic. Coach, what do you have here to get us going?
Steph Curry.
All right. I'll pair him up.
How's that for coming out shooting?
I'll pair him up with Draymond.
Draymond Green.
So
we got Warriors.
We got two Warriors.
Rui Hachimura.
Okay. 5,800. Nice price on FanDuel.
We only need this one game. Let's just finish it up in this.
I'll let you go the next pick in that game if you want. I'm going to get Goga in here, 4,900 as our value center.
I like the Goga pick. Here's a guy that I think we have a spot for that we both happen to like, which was an oddity. How about Slow-Mo?
Okay.
He's cheap enough.
Let's see. 6,900 was the note I wrote. It means we're not going to play Oubre. So,
yeah, I know. Is he 69?
He's 69.
God, I thought he was 62. I'm a little not sure he's worth 69.
Yeah. Well, we can always pivot back to Oubre later if you want, but
yeah, I misjudged that price. That seems a little high. Maybe I was thinking of DraftKings.
He is cheaper on DraftKings, but
yeah. Okay, let's leave that with a question mark next to it.
Okay. I'm going to put Wood in here at 7,800.
Wow.
I think
Okay.
with Wall out, he gets tons of shots. I like the matchup
Uh-oh.
here.
Okay. That makes me have to think now we need some value.
Yeah, we got some value point guards and shooting guards we can get to.
Gosh, we need some of that news to break. That would have helped a lot. Uh, Let me think for 1 second because this will make a difference on my next two picks, really. Um,
Do you want to go with Beal? I can get a value guard in here if you want to pay up for him.
if you think we can afford them,
Okay.
I'll take them.
All right, let's slot him in there. No, not okay. Not Paul George. Bradley Beal. Okay, um, so Seth Curry is a guy that I think we could put in here and still have enough money to get going. So let's put him in here for now. 4,400 as a shooting guard.
Okay, what does that leave us? Because I haven't been filling it in.
Are
I've
we
been
full
looking.
now? There's 4,800 now for our point guard.
We need a $4,800 point guard.
That's where we're at.
Okay, let
Actually,
me see
I
if
like
I
some of
have
the
anybody.
I like some of the 3K guys better. I like Isaiah Thomas at 39. Rondo is 35.
And we're not sure with Rondo, though. What do you think about Shake?
Mm,
You don't like him, huh?
I'd rather just go Isaiah Thomas here.
I don't know if I have the courage. What if Lonzo plays?
Then we'll pivot. Yeah, this is only if Lonzo is out and probably Kyra Lewis also.
Yeah, really. Okay, but that leaves us how much then?
We have 900 extra, so we could go back to Seth Curry and pay up a little bit, or we could even pay up from Slow-Mo.
Slow-mo we have at 69,
Yep.
so that would give us um,
78.
Anthony Edwards.
Interesting.
I've been thinking about Anthony Edwards as a possibility. He fits, right?
Yeah. Want to pay up to him?
Uh, he does get Jaylen Brown defense though. Boy, he's been playing good ball and lots of minutes. Yeah, let's give him a rip. Boston exactly hasn't been Stonewall on defense.
Yeah. Yeah, middle of the pack. They've been a
Yeah,
little bit better
let's go
lately.
with AE as they call him.
All right, there it is. IT, Steph, Bradley Beal, Seth Curry. We got the brothers here. Brothers Curry.
Oh,
How
wow.
about that? Then AE, Rui, Dre, Wood, and Goga.
Now, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that would be our lineup with Goga and IT and all these,
Yeah, right.
we would
Exactly.
not have won that bet.
Yeah, that's funny. That's NBA
Awesome,
DFS
man.
for you. Yeah,
That is.
I
I
like
like
it.
the lineup. A lot of potential, a lot of upside, and we got some big sticks in there too. So,
Absolutely. So, if you want to get all the latest news and edits to that lineup, and then our after hours lineup tonight, full lineups on FanDuel and Yahoo and the DraftKings Coaches Clipboard for the main slate. Join us as a member. Go to dfscoachtalk.com, grab whichever length of time you'd like, and then we'll send you an email to get you into our Discord, and we'll get those lineups to you about 20 minutes before lock tonight. And got a big weekend coming here. We'll have weekend golf lineups as well.
yeah.
So jump in here with all these sports. We'd love to have you. Any questions, again, just reach out to us on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. So that'll do it for today. On behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in DFS.